Hello everyone, today we're going to be doing a video on 5 tips to help you build better in Stormworks. So let's get started. Tip number 1, plan ahead. Now planning ahead is probably one of the most important tips, which is why I put it first, because you need to know what you're building. Now this counts for replicas and non-replicas, so if you're making fictional builds this will count, if you're making real replicas it will. So for example, this is my current project. It's definitely a work in progress, but this is a Junkers Ju-88 that I am going to be putting guns onto with the weapons DLC. Now, I didn't just build this by looking at a few photos. I physically went onto Wikipedia, I looked at books. I've got books from the library that have helped me with this. Looking at dimensions, looking at wing area, you know, even things about the engine types and stuff like that, how the landing gear folds. So when it comes to replicas, you know, you need to plan ahead these things. You need to think about how you're going to fit your cockpit, stuff like that. So getting inspiration and stuff like that is definitely important. When it comes to fictional builds, I would suggest looking on places like Pinterest or similar websites like that for inspiration of, you know, concept vehicles and stuff like that. Right, the second tip is to build up and out. Now, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense at first, but let me explain. So, when it comes to building up and out, you essentially take the centerpiece of your structure and build up and outwards from that. So for example, on a plane, start with your fuselage, then work on your tail, on your wings, and on your landing gear, because that's where it goes out from. The fuselage is kind of the main point. On boats, work on your hull first, then the superstructure, then anything above that, then you can work on the deck. When it comes to cars, make a chassis, then the bodywork, and then the roof and stuff like that. And you'll find that actually building becomes a lot easier that way, because you know, you're not trying to fit a cockpit to your wings, you're not trying to, you know, you have to build outwards. If you build inwards, you will cram yourself. Next tip, simple logic first, then make it more complicated. And I say this because, at the end of the day, when you start building something, things like efficiency and realism are not going to be your top priority, but they shouldn't be at least. When you first start your build, your main priority should be getting something to fly or to run, basically. So for example, if we go into the Fisa Story at the moment, which is probably, I don't know if I'm going to finish this. This is the only thing that works really at the moment. Yes, the zero alt works, altitude hold doesn't really, but you'll see that actually, you know, I didn't press any of these buttons. So you can see that actually there is no complicated logic in this at first, because at the moment the only thing I'm focusing on is actually just making sure that this thing runs properly, and then I can get it to not overheat, which is a major issue at the moment, which is why I'm working on the Junkers, because I want a multiplayer friendly thing that doesn't overheat. So yeah, the summary of that is build the very basics of your logic first with your engines and, you know, all your systems and stuff like that, and then complicate it further forward so that you don't go straight into complicated stuff and have no idea what's not working and how to fix it. Alright, tip number 4, details last. Now, you'll notice that through the build series of this, first thing I did was obviously the fuselage, and then I did the wings and the tail and the landing gear and stuff like that. But you'll notice that if we go back in here, this stuff, so our dials, stuff like that, we close the door, we come back here, you know, stuff like this with, you know, our machine gun ammo and stuff like that. This was all the stuff that I added recently, mostly off camera. Now the reason being for this is because this kind of stuff is what I would consider details. Details are the last thing you should really consider. I know I've kind of started on the details with this before actually physically getting it to run without overheating, which is an issue that I'm trying to solve. But, you know, it's my point is that do the details last, because if you do the details too early, you'll have to change them at some point, most likely, and you would have wasted a whole lot of time. So yeah, long short of it is just do the details last. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of headache. Alright, now, last tip is not only a tip for you guys, but it's also a tip for me and a bit of a reminder to myself. Keep focused on one project, because you'll notice I've got 3 planes spawned in here, and this was not the first one to be built. That one at the back, which I refer to as Project Burning Goliath because it has overheating issues that I'm trying to fix. You'll see that, you know, so this was made first. I'm fitting it out with the weapons DLC. This was made before the weapons DLC. And I'm just trying to make it, you know, at the moment. But at the same time, you know, I got bored with it. It was having overheating issues. I couldn't fix them. Cockpit was really hard to make because at the time we didn't have the guns. And so fitting all the guns in, I still haven't fit half the guns in, you know, it was really difficult. So I got bored and I started making the Feasible Story. But the Feasible Story was getting difficult, so I started making this. After I had a whole lot of other projects, and as you can see, you know, this has been left behind a lot. I have kind of resumed a little bit of work on it. This is probably going to get left behind now because this is my main project now. And once I finish this, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do that. But the problem is that once I've done this and this, I'll forget where I was with this. So stick with one project, because one project, you will zoom through it. Don't try to work on 2. If you work on 2 at a time, you know, you'll be alternating between the 2 and you won't have as much motivation, and it'll take you, you know, twice as long to get each one done. So you won't roll them out as fast, you won't have as much fun doing them. So really just do one at a time. If you're doing 3 at a time like this, that is a terrible idea, because you end up in situations where like this one will get finished first, this one will get finished in maybe like a month, and this will probably not get finished until the end of the year. I think. I don't know, it depends how much time I have with exams and stuff like that and videos. But yeah, those are kind of my 5 tips for building, guys. I guess this is also a little bit of a showcase of what's to come when it comes to build series. You know, we've got 3 German aircraft here. 2 of them, well, one of them's decently legendary, one of them's very legendary, one is like the backbone of the Luftwaffe. So hopefully you guys are looking forward to me building these. And I will, yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.